Picture yourself in the heart of a merciless English winter, sometime around 1350. The wind is a howling beast, cutting through your cloak like a knife, and the snow, heavy and wet, clings to your boots, turning every step into a slog through a frozen mire. You're a traveler, alone on a road that's little more than a rutted, icy scar across the landscape. Your fingers are numb, your breath freezes in the air, and the world feels like it's closing in, ready to bury you in its icy grip. But then, through the thickening dusk, you spot it. A faint, flickering light in the distance. It's a tavern, its weathered sign swaying in the wind, promising shelter, warmth, maybe even a hot meal to ease the ache in your bones. If you're like most of us, your mind conjures a cozy scene. A crackling fire, a steaming bowl of stew, a mug of ale, and the hum of friendly chatter. It's the kind of place where heroes in tales raise a toast and swap stories of adventure. But what if I told you that image is a cruel illusion? Welcome to Boring History, where we rip away the romantic veil and dive into the gritty, often horrifying truth of the past. Today, we're stepping through the door of a medieval English tavern in winter, and trust me, it's not the refuge you're imagining. This is a world where comfort is a lie, where the cold outside is swapped for dangers within. Smoke, disease, violence, and a desperate fight for survival. So, settle in, though I warn you, the seat's probably damp and crawling with something unpleasant. And let's uncover what it was really like to seek shelter in a tavern when winter ruled the land. You've been trudging for hours, your body aching, your cloak sodden with snow. That dim tavern light is your only hope, a beacon promising protection from the wind, a fire to thaw your frozen limbs, and maybe a bowl of something warm to fill your empty stomach. You gather your last bit of strength, push through the snow to the door, and shove it open, expecting relief. But the moment you cross the threshold, reality hits like a punch. The air isn't warm. It's thick, choking, and sour. Smoke from the central hearth stings your eyes and claws at your throat, forcing a cough that feels like it's tearing your lungs apart. The smell is a gut-churning mix of unwashed bodies, damp wool, spilled ale, and the rancid stink of burnt fat and rotting straw. The room is packed, bodies crammed together in the dim, flickering light, their voices a chaotic blend of drunken shouts, coarse laughter, and the constant hacking of sick lungs. The warmth you dreamed of is a cruel tease, concentrated in a tight circle around the hearth, where a privileged few, wealthy merchants, local toughs, or hired soldiers, huddle, their faces flushed with heat while everyone else shivers in the shadows. The floor, a mix of packed earth and sodden straw, radiates a bone-deep chill, and icy drafts snake through gaps in the walls, mocking the idea of shelter. You realize with a sinking heart that this isn't a haven, it's a battlefield. Survival here means fighting for a scrap of warmth, a bite of food, and a chance to make it through the night without falling to disease or a drunken brawl. You're not in a cozy inn from a storybook. You're in a place where every comfort comes at a price, and the cost is often more than you can bear. The fight for warmth is your first challenge, and it's a brutal one. The hearth, a smoldering pile of logs or peat, is the tavern's beating heart, the only thing keeping the icy death outside at bay. But getting close to it isn't a right. It's a privilege earned with coin, status, or raw strength. There's a hierarchy here, silent but vicious. The best spots, right by the fire, belong to the elite. Knights, priests, rich traders, or the local bully and his crew. They sprawl on heavy benches, boots stretched toward the flames, laughing loudly as their faces gleam with sweat and grease. If you've got money, you might buy your way into this circle, but the innkeeper, a sharp-eyed opportunist, knows your desperation and charges dearly for it. A single night by the fire could cost as much as your lodging or a mug of ale. Those with less, small traders, artisans, or farmers in town for business, huddle on the fringes, catching only the faint heat that radiates from the hearth or bounces off the backs of the fortunate. And then there are the poorest, beggars, laborers, fugitive peasants, banished to the icy edges of the room where drafts from the door and walls bite as fiercely as the wind outside. They watch the fire with hungry eyes, their resentment simmering in the dark. You, stepping into this crowded, smoky space, have to size up the room fast. Read the clothes, the postures, the glares, and figure out where you fit. Try to claim a spot too close to the fire without the status to back it up, and you're asking for trouble. A wrong move could spark a fight, and in this cramped, tense room, a fist fight can turn into a knife fight in seconds. The warmth you need to survive is a currency here, and like everything else in this world, it's hoarded by those with power, leaving the rest to shiver and scheme. Surviving the battle for warmth is only half the struggle. Now you've got to eat, and that's a grim prospect. You might have pictured a hearty medieval feast, roast meat, fresh bread, maybe a pie, but winter in a tavern is a far cry from that. The menu is a study in desperation, built on whatever can be stored through the cold months. The centerpiece is pottage, a perpetual stew simmering in a cauldron over the hearth. It's never fully emptied or cleaned. The innkeeper just tosses in whatever's at hand: dried peas, beans, barley, or shriveled root vegetables like turnips and parsnips, blackened and tough from months in a damp cellar. What comes out is a gray, slimy sludge, tasteless if you're lucky, rancid if you're not. Meat is a rare luxury, and when it appears, it's usually salted beef or pork from the autumn slaughter, so briny and tough it's like chewing leather. Sometimes, the innkeeper buys cheap meat from a fallen animal, masking its spoilage with garlic or hours of boiling. But it's a gamble that could leave you sick. A poacher might bring a scrawny hare or a pigeon, but that only jacks up the price of a bowl. The bread is a coarse, stale brick, often mixed with bran or ground acorns to stretch the flour so hard you have to soak it in the pottage to even bite it. And the ale, the tavern's lifeblood, is no better. Stored in cold cellars, it often freezes, turning thick and syrupy, or it's diluted with water to make it last, leaving it bitter and weak. Warming it by the fire might burn it, giving it a sickly sweet taste that turns your stomach. This isn't food for enjoyment. It's fuel to keep your body from giving out. As you choke down this meager fare, you might feel the first signs of scurvy. Aching gums, a creeping weakness, because fresh food is a distant memory in this frozen world. The air you're breathing while you eat isn't doing you any favors either. This tavern isn't just smoky. It's a suffocating trap. To keep out the cold, every window is shuttered tight, every crack stuffed with rags or moss, and the door sealed with a heavy curtain. The result is a room with no airflow, where the smoke from the hearth, fed by damp wood, peat, or even dried dung, has nowhere to go. It hangs under the low ceiling, coating the beams in sticky black soot that flakes into your food and drink. Your eyes water, your throat burns, and a cough settles in, relentless and raw. The air is heavy with more than smoke. It reeks of unwashed bodies, spilled ale, and the damp, rotting straw underfoot. In the worst taverns, the carbon monoxide from the smoldering fire builds to dangerous levels, leaving you dizzy or nauseated, maybe even slipping into a sleep you won't wake from. Some choose this poisonous warmth over opening a window and letting in the cold, but it's a deadly trade-off. Chronic bronchitis, conjunctivitis, even lung damage were the price of nights spent in this human smokehouse. And the danger isn't just in the air, it's in the people around you. Winter drives the desperate to taverns. Beggars, fugitive peasants, demobilized soldiers all crammed together, bringing lice, fleas, and worse. A single cough can spread influenza, bronchitis, or even tuberculosis in this close, unventilated space. You're already weakened by cold and hunger, an easy target for these invisible killers. Every night in this tavern is a roll of the dice, not just for your purse or your pride, but for your very life. As night falls, the tavern grows darker, and not just because the sun sets early in winter, around 4 in the afternoon, leaving endless hours to fill. In this cramped, smoky room, boredom is as dangerous as the cold. Fueled by cheap, murky ale, it drives men to gamble, shout, and fight. Dice games are the main pastime, played on overturned barrels or the filthy floor, with stakes as small as a sip of ale or as high as a man's last coin. The games are loud, heated, often crooked, and a single accusation of cheating can spark a brawl. Fists fly, benches are swung, and knives, everyone carries one, come out in a drunken frenzy. The innkeeper might stand back, letting the fight burn out, then drag the bodies outside when it's over. Songs, crude and bawdy, echo through the room, but even they can lead to quarrels if someone takes offense. Stories are shared too, tales of battles, ghosts, or holy places, but they only deepen the eerie, superstitious mood, especially when the wind howls outside. You've got to stay sharp, watching for trouble, guarding your belongings, and keeping an eye on your horse in the stable. Those stables are a nightmare of their own. Cold, leaky barns where horses stand in wet manure, risking hoof rot or colic from poor fodder. Thieves lurk in the shadows, ready to steal your most valuable asset, and the grooms, if there are any, might be in on it. Many travelers choose to sleep in the icy stable, guarding their horse, rather than risk the chaos of the common room. In this tavern, surviving the night means navigating a minefield of human vices, where a wrong word or a spilled drink could be your last mistake. The innkeeper, though, is the one who truly holds the reins in this frozen hell. Warmth is his currency, and he wields it like a king. Firewood is scarce, a treasure he hoards to last through the winter, and every log on the hearth is a calculated choice. He's not running a charity. If you want to sit by the fire, you pay for it, and the colder it gets outside, the higher the price. A seat by the flames might cost as much as a night's lodging or a mug of ale, and in a blizzard, it's robbery. Wealthy guests toss coins for the privilege, soldiers muscle their way in, while the poor offer labor, chopping wood, cleaning stables, or a story to earn a moment of heat. Those who can't pay are banished to the icy corners, their resentment fueling the room's tension. The innkeeper knows you have no choice. You're at his mercy, and he exploits it without a shred of guilt. A private room, if the tavern has one, is a rare luxury, and lighting a fire in it costs a fortune, a price for safety and privacy that only the richest can afford. This monopoly on warmth isn't just about comfort. It's about survival, and the innkeeper is trading in lives. His greed breeds conflict, as desperate travelers without coin try to force their way to the fire, sparking fights that can turn deadly. In this tavern, warmth isn't a right, it's a privilege, and the divide between those who have it and those who don't is as stark as the gap between rich and poor outside these walls. Morning brings no relief, only a new kind of misery. The fire has died to a few smoldering embers, leaving the room nearly as cold as the world outside. Frost clings to the walls, melting into icy drips as the room slowly warms. The air is damp, stale, and thick with the breath of dozens, burning your lungs with every inhale. The straw underfoot is sodden, soaked with sweat and melted snow, and getting up is torture. Your joints ache, your clothes are clammy, your shoes stiff as boards. Breakfast, if you can scrape together the coin, is a repeat of last night's grim fare. Stale bread and sour, icy ale, with no hope of hot food until the fire is coaxed back to life. You stumble to the stable, praying your horse hasn't fallen ill or been stolen, and wrestle with frozen harnesses and a shivering animal. Paying the innkeeper's inflated bill feels like a final kick in the teeth, a reminder that every moment of survival here comes at a cost. As you step back into the howling wind, the road stretching endlessly before you, you're no less exhausted than when you arrived. Your body is battered, your spirit drained, and the tavern's promise of rest was nothing but a cruel lie. It was a pause, not a refuge, a brief, painful break in your endless fight against winter's wrath. All you can do is hope to reach the next tavern, as grim and unforgiving as this one, and keep moving forward. So, we've pushed open the heavy door of a medieval English tavern in winter and seen it for what it truly was. Not a cozy haven, but a brutal, dangerous microcosm of a harsh world. It was a place of smoke, stench, hunger, and fear, where warmth was a luxury, safety an illusion, and survival a daily battle. Yet these taverns, as horrible as they were lifelines. They kept trade alive, gave travelers a chance to endure, and held the fragile threads of society together through the darkest months. The people who survived them, our ancestors, had a resilience that's almost unimaginable. They faced cold, disease, and violence with a stubborn will to keep going, to reach the next stop, the next day, the next spring. Here at Boring History, we don't sugarcoat the past. We dig into its raw, unfiltered truth, because it shows us the incredible strength it took to live in such a world. If this journey through the medieval winter has left you chilled, horrified, and maybe a little awestruck, give us a like, hit that subscribe button, and join us for more dives into the gritty reality of history. What part of this grim tavern tale struck you the most? What other dark corners of the past do you want us to explore? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.